I went to the wedding of a younger coworker. During the event, the bride made a rude comment about how people who are less educated and poor should cut ties with my husband. She looked down on me because I dropped out of school. Instead of stopping her, my coworker, the groom, joined in and mocked me too. At that moment, I decided to cut them out of my life and reach out to someone else. I promised myself that I would make them regret judging people just based on their education. My name is Gwin, and I'm 32 years old. I grew up in a middle-class family, neither rich nor poor, as the only son of working parents. Unlike most of my classmates who were focused on high school, I was busy looking for a job. Both of my parents went to college, but I was eager to start working as soon as I could. At first, they were confused, but later they supported my choice, saying it was my life to live. I started working as a factory laborer in my hometown, then I became a painting contractor site supervisor. Now, I've been working at a large machinery company for 7 years. I'm the service department manager, which means I visit clients to help install, repair, and maintain machinery. Today, I have more repair and maintenance visits to make. As I drive toward the freeway in my company car, my work phone rings. Seeing the company name on the screen makes me feel a bit stressed. I pull over and call back immediately, only to find out that it's another complaint from a client. I apologize and tell them I'll be there right away. I bow my head in apology, even though the caller can't see me. Now, I have to rearrange my schedule to deal with this complaint first. It looks like it's going to be a long day. After 7 p.m., I return to the office and see Theodore from my service department already back and chatting happily with a colleague from sales. I say, "I'm back." Theodore quickly goes to his seat and starts working on his computer. Each branch office has a small team, and in this branch, it's just Theodore, who is 2 years younger than me, and me in the service department. "Hey, Theodore, do you have a minute? What is it?" I could hear the irritation in his voice. "We got a complaint from one of your clients this morning. I would fix it myself, but we both need to go tomorrow to apologize." "Why did you leave it unattended for 2 days? I had plans both days." "The CEO over there is always bossing me around. Maybe they should rethink how they treat me." As usual, Theodore just gave excuses and complained about the client. "I'm going to report this to the area manager." I had to step in and fix a client's issue. Of course, I have to report it. Theodore, without any remorse, scoffed and said, "So you're reporting on me again just because you're jealous of my education? You exaggerate things in your reports." He thinks I'm jealous of him because I dropped out of college. I graduated from a prestigious university. Theodore used to be polite and humble, but once he found out I was a dropout, his attitude changed completely. I wouldn't mind if he did his job right, but there are too many complaints from his clients, and it's a headache. The next day, we both went to the client to apologize. The client's president was aggressive and said, "What are you doing here? Your job is to fix this." I'm used to people being tough in industrial settings, but Theodore, who has no field experience, just stood there in silence. After I calmed the angry client down and talked about future improvements, Theodore finally mumbled a soft, "I'm sorry." I thought he would feel bad about it, but I was wrong. He said, "Why are field workers so uncivilized?" Instead of feeling sorry, Theodore started bashing the client. "That CEO shows how uneducated he is with the way he talks." It was embarrassing to watch. Who made a client that angry? Maybe you should reflect on your work. But my words fell on deaf ears. He replied, "You're just out of touch because you've worked in those environments. Even so, if you're going to be in this line of work, you need to get used to it," Theodore said with a mocking laugh. "What are you talking about? I only took this job to learn some mechanical skills. I don't plan on staying here," he replied. Usually, people like Theodore would work in service for 2 years before moving to sales, but he has been here for 3 years. No one would promote someone with so many complaints to a sales position. He genuinely believes the bad reports are because I'm jealous of him. If that's true, then he should focus on getting better at his service job and show some sincerity to the client. But with his bad attitude, there's no sincerity to talk about. It wouldn't bother me as much if he was at my professional level. I couldn't bring myself to say another word to him. One day, I went on a business trip to set up some machinery. The test run didn't go well because of some glitches, so I had to stay overnight to fix it. The next day, our branch had limited staff, so other local branches would help out with major tasks. While I was looking for a place to eat near the hotel, someone called out to me. "Hey, what are you up to?" I turned around to see Theodore with a woman on his arm. "Oh hey, Theodore. Good evening," I said, greeting the woman beside him and offering my hand for a handshake. She accepted but didn't say anything. "This is my girlfriend, Selena. She's from around here," Theodore introduced her. I felt like I had seen her somewhere before but didn't think much of it. Theodore then invited me to dinner, and I accepted. After we ordered, Theodore started to brag. "Actually, we just got engaged. She graduated from the same college as me, and her family is pretty wealthy here. She's definitely on a fast track to success." That explained why he wanted to invite me to dinner. He wanted to show off his fiancée. As for Selena, she barely acknowledged me, not making eye contact and only nodding occasionally at Theodore. Dinner ended with Theodore dominating the conversation. When it was time to leave, Theodore excused himself to go to the restroom, leaving me alone with Selena. She broke the silence by saying, "I've heard quite a bit about you from Theodore." Her eyes locked onto mine with a cold stare. I could tell Theodore had been badmouthing me. "You think your managerial role is a big deal, just because you've been at the company a few years longer? Could you please stop blocking Theodore's career?" she said. I knew that the manager position is something anyone can achieve with enough years of service and good performance evaluations. In our situation, the area manager is in charge, and I'm just a senior colleague, which is true. Deciding it was pointless to argue, I let it go. Soon, Theodore returned. Avoiding eye contact and pretending nothing had happened, as I was leaving, I asked him about work for the next day, and he said he'd be helping out at another branch. Something felt off, but I didn't say anything since she was there. The next day, I went to troubleshoot a test run as planned, but Theodore never showed up. I felt uneasy, so I discreetly asked the area manager to look into Theodore's business trip application. It turned out that on the day I met Theodore and his girlfriend, they were supposed to be on a business trip that involved an overnight stay. This was clearly a false claim. The area manager said they would handle the rest, so I left it to them. Later, the date for Theodore and his girlfriend's wedding was set. I wasn't invited, and I felt relieved. However, a week before the ceremony, the area manager asked me to attend in their place. They were supposed to give the main speech but couldn't make it, so they asked me to do it. At first, I declined but then accepted when they insisted. On the wedding day, I arrived early and ran into Theodore and his girlfriend on my way to the waiting room. They looked surprised to see me. "You know, my elite friends and I all have degrees from prestigious universities and work in top-tier companies. I didn't think someone who dropped out would fit in, so we didn't invite you," Theodore scoffed. I replied, "I was asked to speak on behalf of the area manager, who will be late once they arrive." "I'm leaving," I replied. The color drained from their faces. "Are you trying to embarrass me by having a dropout give a speech? If the area manager can make it, there's no need for a speech. Leave now," Theodore commanded. "Cut ties with my husband, you uneducated poor thing," his girlfriend added. They both laughed loudly and walked into the waiting room, leaving me stunned. A new emotion welled up in me, and my whole body started to tremble. If they wanted to sever ties, then so be it. I stayed under the radar and waited for my turn to speak. Finally, it was my turn. I took a deep breath and stepped up to the mic. Even though Theodore and his girlfriend glared at me, urging me to leave, I started my speech. "Congratulations on your wedding. If you thought I'd stick to the usual pleasantries, you're mistaken. Theodore isn't exactly commendable in his job, but since this is a celebratory occasion, I'll use only the highest praises. Top-tier graduate Theodore, you are exceptional at accumulating customer complaints at work. Your unrepentant and arrogant behavior, always blaming our clients, really shows your thick skin. I'm always impressed." "Stop it." Theodore's girlfriend stood up beside a flustered Theodore and shouted, "You're supposed to cut ties with Theodore, quit bullying him." The room started buzzing, but I continued my speech. "All I can say is Theodore is quite the trickster. He's been lying about business trips to hang out with her and claiming expenses for it. That's pretty bold and clear embezzlement. Hey, Cut it out. You're making this up, Theodore shouted, red-faced, and started coming towards me. His girlfriend also stood up and screamed, "What's your evidence for all of this? Are you insane?" The room descended into chaos, prompting the MC to nervously ask me to stop. I thought maybe this was as far as it would go. At that moment, the door swung open with a bang. The area manager and the president of the client company entered the now silent room. Theodore's girlfriend went pale when she saw the president heading straight for the bride and groom's table. "So, you're lying about wanting to quit your job to marry me? Was that a lie?" the president asked. It turned out she had been working as a hostess at the club. I recognized her because I was once told at the club that she was the one supposed to marry Theodore. I had contacted the area manager to bring the president after realizing her true identity. "I lent you money to quit your job and pay off your debt, then you disappeared and planned to marry someone else." She couldn't come up with any excuses when faced with the calm president. Even Theodore didn't know about her working in the hostess club. Theodore stormed back to his girlfriend and confronted her. "What is going on?" he demanded. She snapped back, "You act all elite, but you're a no-good criminal, even worse than a dropout. That dropout is just jealous of me. It's all lies." The area manager quietly stepped in front of the shouting Theodore. "We have evidence of your actions, and we'll be reporting them to headquarters. You will be suspended until a decision is made." Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Theodore's face turned ashen. The president then said to her, "We'll be speaking through lawyers from now on." The once defiant woman broke down in tears. The MC wisely suspended the ceremony, and the guests were asked to leave. I left the scene with the area manager and the president. Rumor had it that Theodore and his girlfriend had planned to get their marriage certificate after the ceremony, but now that was off. Both families blamed each other and fought over the wedding costs. Theodore was fired for misconduct, and they were calculating the exact amount he had embezzled for restitution. The only downside was that the area manager also received a pay cut for poorly supervising his subordinates. Theodore had scheduled his business trips to coincide with major tasks, like machinery installations, and the area manager had approved these trips. As for the woman, she was facing fraud charges from the CEO for her fake marriage and would likely be tied up in court for a while. Of course, I cut ties with Theodore and haven't spoken to him since that day. As for me, I'm just going to continue living my life with my head held high.